Friends, I am Rajeshri ma'am, and this is the last part of the explanation of the story A Shot in the Dark by H. Munro. And one thing I want to tell you, that always go through the lesson very carefully as I am explaining it line by line, and it will help you to understand the or enjoy the humor lying in it. And so let's start with the lesson. I had ended in my last video with the portion where Mr. Slitherby and Claude people had met on the platform, and Mr. and Claude people was describing all the great features of that car before Mr. Slitherby as he was here. You see different sort of people to the horse-drawn carriage in which our grandfathers used to travel. Yeah, exclaimed the lawyer appreciatively. Here you see that this story was written more than 100 years ago, and at that time engine driven car or motor car was new to the people. And so Mr. Claude people was saying that our grandfather used to travel by the horse-drawn carriage, and it was different from them. He was very much overwhelmed with the beauty of the car, and all the way he went on describing the features to Mr. Slitherby. And for Slitherby's benefit, he began running over the chief points of perfection in the fitting and mechanism of the car. Slitherby heard not a single word, noted not one of the details that were being expounded to him. But Slitherby had not at all was not at all listening to the thing which was said by Mr. Claude people. Uh, Claude people was explaining Claude people was explaining everything in detail. His eyes were fixed on the door panel on which were displayed two crests, a running greyhound and a demi lion holding in its paw a crisscross leg. But Slitherby was awestruck when he saw the crests on the door panel of the car, and there were two crests which were as was described by as was acquainted by the young man he met in the railway carriage. And he thought that that person was lying. Mr. Slitherby was thought that the young man was lying about the crest of his family. Claude People was not the sort of man to notice an absorbed silence on the part of a companion. As I said, that Claude People was very talkative, and he was not habituated to be quiet, and particularly when there is a person beside him, a known person beside him. He had been silent himself for nearly an hour in the train, and his tongue was making up for lost time. He had to be silent in the railway carriage because there was no acquaintance with him, no and no companion with him. So he was making up that time by talking to Mr. Slitherby. Political gossip, personal anecdote, and general observation flowed from him in an uninterrupted stream as the car sped along the country roads. And he went on talking and talking in an uninterrupted manner. That means relentlessly he talked. And talking about political gossip, personal anecdotes are the stories, short stories told about a real incident or a real person. Funny stories, especially, and amusing story. And when the car was going along the country roads, just as the car turned in at the Brill entrance gates, Claude people captured Slitherby's attention. Then again, he started talking with Mr. Slitherby when the car had entered the Brill entrance gates, and but the topic of his conversation was different now. Before he was praising the car, and now he started praising Mrs. Solpen Jago, the personality of their hostess. That means Mrs. Solpen Jago. Brilliant woman, level headed, a clear thinker, knows exactly when to take up an individual or a cause, exactly when to let him or it drop. Brilliant woman. He described her as brilliant woman, level headed, that means very balanced, a clear thinker, knows exactly when to take up an individual or a cause. That means how to act with a person, how to behave with a person, and exactly when to let him or it drop, when to behave, take some person or drop a person. Influential woman, I wouldn't dare upset her, but too restless. She is very brilliant, but I one point is bad about her, that is she is too restless. No repose, she doesn't want to rest. Good appearance too, till she made that idiotic change. She was beautiful, but she made a change which had turned him, lessened her beauty. Lessened her beauty. Change. Where is Slitherby? What change? What change? You don't mean to say? Oh, of course, you have only known her just lately. Oh, you don't know about her change? Yes, that is because you have just known her lately. Only some days ago or some months ago. She used to have beautiful dark brown hair, which went very well with her fresh complexion. Then one day, about 5 weeks ago, she electrified everybody by appearing as a brilliant blonde. She used to have dark brown hair, but now she turned her hair into brilliant blonde. That means yellow, golden yellow. Quite ruined her looks. She destroyed her look. Here we are, I say. What's the matter with you? You look rather ill. And at that time, Mr. Slitherby was looking ill, because now it is proved that the young man in the railway carriage had not lied at all to him, and he was the real son of Mrs. Solpen Jago. And Mr. Slitherby was to please Mrs. Solpen Jago to get the nomination in the parliament, but he now there was no chance to please Mrs. Solpen Jago, as he had not believed her son, that young man, and did not lend him money in his distress. So the person, Mr. Solpen Jago, thought himself a very has a high esteem about him. He thought himself a very clever, very intelligent person, but that turned everything wrong, and just because of his overconfidence about himself. And so this is the message of the story, that one should not be overconfident, and sometimes very clever person can get befooled by can be befooled or cheated. And so this is the moral of the story. So this is the end of the explanation. I will discuss the question answer in the next video. Till then, bye. Good night.